His name was Robert Paulson. His name was Robert Paulson. His name was Robert Paulson.
Robert Paulson.
His name is Robert Paulson.
His name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson.
Come on, guys,
His
please,
name
stop it.
is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson.
This is over with!
His name is Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Inner Circle. Anyway, so before we say our piece about it, I'd like to take a minute and talk about our personal histories with the movie. What's your history with it, Clayton?
My history is that this is Sterling. That's
Oh yeah, I forgot to introduce our guest stars.
That's Garrett.
Sterling and Garrett.
They live here.
Hello.
Fight Club. I love Fight Club. Fight Club is something I hold very near and dear to my dude bro heart, and my film kid heart, and my writer heart, because Chuck Palahniuk is one of my favorite writers.
My history of Fight Club goes back to middle school. A friend of mine, he was really knee-deep into a lot of the Chuck Palahniuk stuff. He was knee-deep into a lot of shitpost internet culture when it was just starting up.
Yeah.
And he really loved, like, anarchy. Like, he was full-on, like, subscribed to anarchy, and he's like, yo, come watch Fight Club with me. And we watched that movie together, and we were both kind of, like, speechless, because he had read the book, but he hadn't seen the movie, so we both kind of went in blind.
Oh boy.
And just immediately, as soon as the movie starts, you're like, oh, this has something to say about dude bros and society in general. But that's my history with it. Sterling?
Yeah, so I have a really interesting history because I've seen this movie for the first and only time, probably about 2 years ago. And I had heard about it, and the only thing I knew about it is not to talk about it. I thought it was just going to be some sort of like action sort of thriller movie with, it had some cool actors in it. I was like, this is pretty great. I watched it for the first time and like my mind was blown. Like I had no idea about anything that was in store for the end. So I really enjoyed it. But I'm also like a pretty amateur when it comes to this movie. I'd be more versed in like a cartoon or something like that.
You don't know a lot of like the culture behind it?
Oh, I mean, I know some. But,
gotcha.
Ask me about, like, Family Guy, and, like, oh, it's going to go off the rails.
American Dad,
Yeah.
Family Guy.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
Let's hear from the arsonist.
Great. Sets me up as the Fight Club guy.
Mm-hmm.
Fight Club was a movie that, for a long time, I hadn't seen in its entirety. I had seen a whole bunch of different scenes from it, and I knew through a couple of different friends the whole message behind it, the whole fight the powers sort of anarchy feel of the whole movie. And I watched it for the first time in whole several years ago, and then yesterday was only the second time I'd seen that movie in its entirety.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So there you go.
But I didn't say anything because I figured if I didn't say anything, I'd keep the commentary down.
It's kind of ironic, because if anyone was to actually, like, in this room be in Fight Club in real life, it would be you. 100%.
That's
And-
pretty good.
In a general term, I see what he was going for. I think he went about it an extreme way
Yeah, no.
in terms of Tyler Durden.
The ultimate emotional release for a man is to start a domestic terrorist organization and fight the consumerism, fight the power.
But was it the author, Chuck Palahniuk, who said, like, there are two...
Yes.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
Chuck Palahniuk said, let me get real dude bro on you. He said this on a Joe Rogan podcast a couple months ago.
Oh, boy.
Chuck Palahniuk said that in popular media, there's only two real emotional outlets for men. Like, women have a bunch of shit. They have, like, the Sisterhood, Traveling Pants, and a bunch of other, like, weird woman movies like that. But men only have two emotional releases in film, in media, like, stuff that they're given. And it's Dead Poets Society and Fight Club. It's the two extremes of, like, the intellectual and then Fight Club
Oh, right.
to really get your physical shit out.
The
Well,
raw
it's-
testosterone,
and that's
like
like-
the full.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
The
like,
intellectual and the
I know what they are, but I love the Expendables. It's just, there's that drive in me
Yeah.
where I'm like, they're all shooting guns and they're
Exactly.
all together.
And it's all the actors that you want to see.
And it's all the guys
But that's
that
what
are old. I
he
don't
was
care
calling
that they're
Fight
old.
Club. Yeah, as a story and a concept, Fight Club is that. It's like it's that raw like that one of the only avenues that a man is able to like release emotions in.
But I also want to say, like, on that point, like, as dude bro as Fight Club is,
Yeah.
it's not 100% dude bro because there are definitely a lot of very intellectual, like, heady stuff.
It's an
It's very
intellectual.
introspective, I'm sure.
It's an
I
intellectual
would say.
story, but the movie, because it's made by David Fincher, one of the biggest dude bros on the planet.
One of the greatest directors on the planet.
One of the greatest dude bros on the planet. It makes the movie very much becomes a dude bro thing where like you just want to be with Brad Pitt and beat people up.
It's
It's really the Brad Pitt.
Yeah, Tyler Durden kind of makes the whole movie.
Oh man.
in my opinion, it's a valid point that aside from starting a domestic terrorist organization, sometimes you really just gotta fight shit out.
Yes.
Sometimes you've got that emotional buildup in you, and instead of starting a domestic terrorist organization, start your own fight club. Don't start Project Mayhem, start a fight club.
Let's talk a little bit about the core story.
Yeah.
Edward Norton.
Okay, Edward Norton's a fucking sad boy piece of shit, and he doesn't have any kind of outlets as a single man living in a city who buys every piece of furniture he finds in an IKEA catalog.
Definitely a commentary on consumerism.
So he goes to cancer survivor groups and smoking groups and shit to pretend he has a real issue to
Terminal
cry.
disease survivors.
Yeah,
Right.
goes to terminal disease survivor meetings.
And it, like, cures his insomnia overnight.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he goes to people with real issues and pretends he has a real issue so he can cry about his mundane things because he doesn't feel like they're worth actually being able to cry about,
Right.
which is,
Fair.
interesting and not the part of the story the dude birds like.
And, like, I'm gonna
Right,
get...
it's very sad boy for
Yeah.
Yeah.
at the very beginning. I wasn't really expecting it, It's almost reminds me of like being John Malkovich.
Oh, being John
Think of his name.
Malkovich.
So iconic. Like it starts so dreary and then just like evolves into like this wild,
That's a good way to put it.
Like it completely just derails yourself.
Yeah, because like it starts out as like a simple this is like an analysis of like consumerism, like blue collar workers
The
and
9 to 5 whole.
AA meetings, all of it, and all of a sudden like Brad Pitt shows up, and as soon as Brad Pitt shows up, the whole movie derails. And it's
Not as soon as he shows up, because you see him in several scenes beforehand.
That's true. The editing in this movie is really clever because there will be every now and then like single frames of Brad Pitt in the background.
It's
That's-
like from the start of the movie, Tyler Durden is slowly creeping his way to the front of like the main character's mind,
Right.
and then eventually he fucking sits on the plane. And it's like from there it's off to Wonderland.
I noticed those little like random frame moments in the movie where you're like, can we go back? Like, what was that?
Frames of Tyler Durden just
You have to
standing
just
around.
kind of like snapshot it while you can, but
Exactly.
really makes it kind of interesting.
And they do
It
make a
hooks you.
point of, I'd say probably in the midpoint, of pointing it out when they mention Tyler Durden works
His
as
other
a
job.
film cutter. And they point out the cigarette burns in the top right corner.
That's right, yeah.
And it shows him and points him out in that as sort of a late call out to the fact that Tyler shows up and most people don't notice it the first time they watch the movie.
Right. It kind of like comes full circle in that regard. And then I always love it, the ending. Like they establish early on with Tyler Durden that he like will splice little frames of pornography into movies.
into children's family movies.
Children's family
That's right,
movies.
yeah.
And at the very, very end, the last frame is just a straight up dick. But I guess we should go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room. Like, everybody, if you haven't seen Fight Club, major spoilers, but most everybody knows this. Tyler Durden is a fabrication of Edward Norton's mind. He
he's
invented the persona to give his life meaning.
he's the
Right.
split personality.
Right.
It's the old classic, that never happened, and it's all in your head,
But that's really like the brilliant twist of the movie.
It really is done well, too.
Yeah.
They really led you to think Tyler Durden is this influential, like character, and does all these cool things behind the scenes, and then it's like, boom, it hits you with that twist.
Yeah, Edward Norton's character is such like an insecure pussy. He can't just find an outlet and act on it. He has to create this uber alpha male persona in his head that befriends him and leads him around, and is like, maybe you should just fight some fucking dude. And then that just, as he you realize he's actually crazy, it starts snowballing more.
Yeah.
And so one day he wakes up and he's like, why are there 50 men shaved bald making bombs in my house?
Yeah, like they start Fight Club very
Oh,
innocently.
man.
Like Tyler is trying to get Edward Norton, who we think his name is Jack, right?
Well, and he doesn't, in the movie he doesn't have a name.
Right,
Yeah.
but
It's in
every now
other-
and then he'll be like, "I am Jack's lack of enthusiasm."
Yeah, he's quoting the poetry book he read early.
Right.
Right.
But for all intents and purposes, I'm going to refer to him as Jack for now.
Yeah.
Sure.
So Jack, essentially, like Tyler is trying to bring him out of his consumerism and his like clinging to society. He's like, you need to break out. You're just a bag of meat, man.
So
it doesn't matter.
you have to express yourself through punching this guy in the face.
And then like he takes him on this ridiculous like dude bro adventure, and then it just spirals into. He wakes up the next morning, all of a sudden he's the leader of a terrorist organization.
Casually.
Casually, very casually.
Well, no, he doesn't wake up the next morning, right? That happens after the.
Well, I was
car
exaggerating,
accident.
but yeah.
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 It happens after the car accident, and the scene we see is they go back to the house, and Tyler gets Jack in bed, and he's like, "All right, buddy, you stay there," and shuts the door. And then it's like months or something later.
Untold a period of time. Yeah.
Yeah,
that-
there is a pretty significant time skip, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And then Jack wakes up in the bed and goes downstairs and is like, "What the fuck is happening?" There's these dudes with buzz cuts that have basically turned this old shitty abandoned house into a military compound.
Yeah, they have
Yeah.
dudes making bombs in the kitchen,
Yeah.
guys doing recon in like the fucking living room.
I love that David Fincher as a director just like pulls no punches, and he straight up shows you how to make napalm and stuff out of like fucking soap.
I think
Oh, boy.
David Fincher directing the movie is the perfect compliment, the perfect thing to go with Chuck Palahniuk's writing. Because from like the opening second, it's so harsh and abrasive, and just like the things they say and the way it's all presented, and that really adds to the edginess of it. That
Well-
really pulls a lot of guys into it. Okay, Garrett, how do you feel about this thing promoting violence? I'm gonna go to the two what I
go
assume
for
to be polar opposites. I was gonna paint this picture before you speak, sir.
Paint this picture. I agree, right, that there's got to be some sort of controlled, violent output. MMA, UFC, professional boxing, even professional wrestling like WWE, which is admittedly a lot of acting, but it's very physical acting. It's all 90% of it, at least, is run by men, with men as the main actors, purveyors of the show, as it were. Because it's something, just like, to me at least, deeply ingrained in your, like, monkey brain, lizard brain, whatever the hell you want to call it, that you get mad and you want to get it out.
Right.
And in the way society is today, there's everyone's favorite word, society.
Mm-hmm.
The way it is today is that's kind of frowned upon because that violence is seen as brutish or barbaric. Like,
Exactly.
I'm gonna butcher the quoting here, but when the MMA was first trying to, or when the UFC and MMA in general was first trying to get off the ground, it was lambasted as human cockfighting and very much looked down upon. And by a lot of people it still is. There's a lot of people who still don't like it, but the numbers don't lie. The amount of people who watch and the amount of people who pay to watch that shit.
For sure. Even all of the celebrity fights that go on, like
Logan Paul,
you know, you get
such.
yeah.
It's like you've got this outlet, right, of watching these guys fight, and you might not be in the best physical shape, or you might not be someone capable of fighting. So that's the next best thing you've got.
Is by proxy living through it.
Yeah, it's living.
And I think that's what made this movie blow up the way it did, because the book was I don't want to say notorious because it wasn't that old, but like it was known, but the movie really exploded because of that, I think. Because dudes with no outlets seeing like this character who's this boring consumerism junkie working a 9-to-5, can't sleep piece of shit, you know, kind of
someone they can probably, unfortunately, very easily relate to.
Yeah. And seeing him just enter, like, separate from the Project Mayhem stuff and like the more story side of it, just seeing like someone like that, be able to form a fight club and just start getting it out through physicality.
Yeah. And
becoming better with big air quotes, because like, you know, becoming better for it is a fact that resonates a lot with dudes.
Interesting fact that probably, well, everyone in this room knows, but a lot of people who would end up watching this probably know too, is the scene where Brad Pitt tells Ed Norton to hit him. Brad Pitt's not expecting when he's gonna hit him, and he didn't expect him to fucking sock him in the ear like he did. So when he goes, fuck, you hit me in the ear, that's a real reaction from Brad Pitt getting socked in the ear by Ed Norton.
That's a nice fun fact.
Yeah.
Motherfucker! You hit me in the ear!
Well, Jesus, I'm sorry.
Ow! Christ! By the ear, man!
I fucked it up.
It's kind of like also the brilliance of the editing of this movie.
Yeah.
Just the way that David Fincher edits his films, just like, this movie has a beat to it. Like, like all the music, it just doesn't stop. It just keeps flowing into the next scene after another.
It's constantly pulsing, and it keeps your energy up the whole time, which is like, it's a part of the mood it built. Like it keeps.
I want to talk about Marla Singer, because she's a very important character, and I don't think that she should be looked over.
No, she's the catalyst probably for Fight Club.
That's true.
If you look at that, so Marla Singer is played by Helena Bonham Carter, and in the beginning of the movie, when Jack's going to these groups for people with various terminal diseases or survivors of terminal diseases, he mentions at one point, what's her, Marla Singer.
Yeah.
That bitch Marla Singer is the line that introduces her, I think.
Yeah, that's the first time she's referenced.
That's the first time she's said by name. She's going to these support groups too, and we're first introduced to her in the testicular cancer group when she walks into that group, and it's very... I mean, as far as I know, I don't think women can get testicular cancer. Maybe in some fringe cases, like men getting breast cancer.
Or like an ovarian sort of deal.
Yeah,
Who
it's
knows?
a similar...
But the point is that she inserts herself where she like clearly doesn't fit. It doesn't belong.
And that immediately sets off an alarm in Jack's head when he realizes that she's, as he puts it, a fucking tourist.
He comments on that. He says that her fakeness reminds him of his own, and then he immediately just, like, he can't cry, he can't go to sleep anymore as soon as she shows up. And it's part of the reason why he invents his Tyler Durden persona. But then, you know, a twist of fate as it would be, she ends up being his love interest, and she ends up being, like, what really gives him purpose at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
That's true.
Iconic scene, him shooting himself in the face, getting rid of Tyler, surviving that.
Insane, yeah.
And then she shows up, and he's like, you met me at a very strange time in my life. Boom, credit card company buildings all exploding, end of the movie. Balls to the wall.
Just a great, like, pull out and finish kind of thing. Not in that way, you know.
That's a good point.
Exactly in that way.
Shame.
But like,
For shame.
For shame on you and me.
I don't want to say that Fight Club is a man's movie, but it very much curtails to a certain crowd.
I do think it can be enjoyed by anyone. Like, you know, as
Same,
much as we've been talking about how, you know, a man can have a personal connection to the story and the characters. Like, I think at the end of the day, you know, it's still a fictional movie. It's still an introspective movie, and it's still like a look on the human psyche as a whole, and you know, not a human psyche, not a cat psyche. And you know, I think it has a lot to offer for anybody. You know, maybe not kids. They probably wouldn't really get it.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't understand.
But I think all walks of life, people can understand, you know, frustrations and wanting to take them out, and different kinds of ways that are healthy or not healthy, depending on, you know, what you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will say that anything opinion-wise that we've said, if you look real close at the screen, it's 4 dudes.
Right.
Yeah, sue us, I guess.
I can only see out of 2 lenses here.
But again,
But
like,
that, I make such a big point of it because I feel like it is anyone can get something out of it, but I feel like it is specifically targeted towards like an American. It's an American male audience. Like it is the exact thing that they're shooting for and trying to send a message to.
I certainly wouldn't be surprised if like a female friend who didn't find the same enjoyment that I would, you know.
well, it's a very informative movie about masculinity in general. And I don't care if you're male, female, whatever you identify yourself as, you can learn something from that.
Totally.
Unless you're a dude bro from a frat house and you watch Fight Club up until the point they do the first meeting and you smash the Miller Lights and tell your friend, hey, let's fucking fight, bro, because you're probably not going to get anything out of it because you're just not paying attention and you're probably a little stupid.
That's the surface level of Fight Club.
And they're going to fail that math test tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and then you're going to fail your math test.
You know when that happens.
So and then you're going to have
That's
to retake.
a semester down the drain.
Then you're going to retake the class and eventually you're going to drop out and you're going to work at your dad's hardware store. You don't want to do that.
Well,
That spiral.
the fuck? This whole movie's a spiral. But anyway, let's wrap it up with some of our final thoughts, some of our favorite moments. Clayton, start us off.
My final thoughts on Fight Club. It's the pinnacle of like a story about masculinity and young adult American men from like the 90s up until now. Is still relevant because the culture we live in, it hasn't changed that much. It's still the same way with the consumerism and the distractions and stuff draining you, and you not being given the proper outlet to express these things. And that resonates a shit ton. And David Fincher makes a fucking balls to the wall movie with crazy David Fincher editing and cinematography and amazing music choices, great performances from the actors. They stay true to the source material apart from changing a couple little things here and there. I give it like this is a strong 8 out of 10 from me if I'm gonna put a score on it.
8 out of 10. Nice. Fight Club, directed by David Fincher. Fincher, man, I love you and I love your work. I'm sorry that they curbed you on Alien 3. I love Alien 3. But that being said, this is one of his best films. Definitely the most iconic out of all of them, for a good reason. It's Fight Club. What's not to love about it? It's solid. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for me.
9 out of 10. Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, what can I say? It's I think it's a fantastic movie. You know, obviously, I would say my best part is just the classic when you find out that Tyler Durden is just a figment of his imagination, and a product of his mind. And I always love a classic whodunit. It's or not a whodunit, I guess, but a classic twist. And at the end of the day, it's really a movie that makes you think about yourself, about life, and stuff like that. You really gotta love it. I gotta probably agree. 8 out of 10 for me. Like 7, 8 out of 10.
Spoiler alert! Big like Shutter Island style twist.
Yeah.
For anyone who's seen that movie. I've got kind of an interesting perspective just looking at the movie and watching it. Like, Tweedledee and Tweedledum are both film majors to some degree. I know you're not.
I'm just a simple fan.
He's just a guy that watches 8 hours of American.
I'm a simple viewer, just like you.
This is the general audience.
Exactly.
Okay.
I represent the masses.
I get the benefit of looking at it through the lens of an anthropologist who's
Okay.
studying people. It's throughout history, violence has been a big part of human history. Things have been solved through fist fights, through duels, through I think it was Inuit people basically had rap battles. You would write
My
a poem dissing the other guy,
Fantastic.
and you would go back and forth, and whoever lost by vote of the tribe ended up paying the other dude whatever the fight was over.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they cut down on their violence.
Right.
But in that same sort of vein, you see it here, that violence big in human culture, and again, it's a primarily male thing. Filmography-wise, movie-wise, it's very, very well shot. It's like you said earlier, there's a very steady beat that runs through the whole movie, giving you this whole sort of just a vibe that you feel throughout the whole thing. Even if you're not hearing the music, you're still almost keeping the beat, because from one scene to the next, even when the music's super quiet, you can still like feel it, and then when it picks up again. And then scene-wise, probably my favorite scene from that is when they go to steal the fat for soap.
Oh yeah, that's a great scene.
They go to a liposuction clinic because the best fat for making soap is human fat.
Of
So
course.
they go
it
and
is.
steal bags of it, and they make a comment about selling rich white people their own fat asses back to them. And I think that scene alone gives the movie at least a 7 for me. Compiling everything else with it, I give it a solid 8.
Yeah.
It's a very good movie.
Well, that was Fight Club. Catch us next time. Hopefully, we'll have you guys back on the show.
Wouldn't it be crazy if it just cut? Like, if
It's
I
great
just
being
hit you
here.
and it cut? If like the video ended?
Smack me. No, don't actually.